Joined now by Louisiana Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy. Senator, great to have you. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Hey, Hugh, thank you for having me, buddy.
Well, I have I have a gang of 7 senators today. I've got Joni Ernst and Chris Coons, you and Tom Tillis, Tom Cotton, Todd Young, Roger Wicker, because the Senate's dysfunction is the subject of a column I wrote for the Washington Post. Let me ask you this as a doctor. If a hospital ran like a Senate, how many people would die?
Well, nobody would come to the hospital, so nobody would come.
So how do we fix, I have a proposal that you get a gang of reform-minded senators, bipartisan, to come up with a up or down package of fixes, because this can't go on.
Well, let me go to the converse. Somebody suggested that we have as many amendments as possible, because part of the problem is that senators feel like their constituents are not being heard, that deals are being cut in the back room with 4 or 5 people, and then it's being foisted upon everyone else. So maybe if you have a series of amendments, allow the genius of the American people to be kind of transmitted, if you will, through those amendments, at least let them be heard, then the Senate begins to work better, and that's really how it's worked in the past.
Now, regular order makes a lot of sense to me, except when Senator Schumer is invoking 30 hours of debate on every nominee, and not one appropriation bill has made it to the floor in 2 years. Something is broken.
Something is broken. There is a kind of hatred of Trump that compels, I think, the other party to make decisions that are foolish. They filibustered Neil Gorsuch, who is eminently qualified, endorsed by liberal and conservative jurists, and they still filibustered him because of their base. I would argue that this latest shutdown is a response to the pressure from their base, but they really had no end game, and it wasn't really well thought out.
Well, now, we've got, obviously, the Lankford effort to reform the rules is in the Rules Committee. But if that fails, do you support going nuclear to change these hours of debate? Because there's no way that we should not have Rick Grinnell in Berlin when Germany is undergoing serial crises, and he has been out of committee for months. And there are other ones, South Korea, State Department. There's just no way we can allow this to go on.
So I accept your point, but let me just turn it around and speak now as a partisan. Since 1964, Democrats have controlled the presidency and both chambers of Congress about 2 times more than Republicans have. And the first 2 years of Obama, if we'd had a nuclear option, we would have had cap and trade, single payer, card check, and many other things that conservatives rightly think are an anathema. So I think we have to be very careful tinkering with how our founding fathers set it up.
Well, the founding fathers didn't include a filibuster, Senator, and I've been teaching con law for 22 years, so I'm kind of adamant about this. They set up a continuing body. You have the right to set your own rules, and you've set these rules. But now these rules are being so deeply abused, as I think Tom Tillis just said, there isn't a day go by that Chuck Schumer doesn't abuse the rules, that on matters of staffing our embassies, on matters of getting our Secretary of Defense his service chiefs, I'm not suggesting wholesale departure of the filibuster on legislative matters, but on appropriations, we haven't funded the Department of Defense in 2.5 years.
Yeah, I accept that. And by the way, when it comes to appointments, I'm in agreement. And I think that's kind of the thrust of Lankford's suggestions, that we limit debate to a more reasonable, because frankly, we're never debating. We're just running out the clock. And every president, whether he is a conservative or whether she is a liberal, has the right to their own appointees within reason. So I'm kind of with you on that one.
Now, talk to me a little bit about the nature of the body. You are a healer, and so you are used to dealing with all sorts of different people. Have you got any genuine friends across the aisle?
You know, the old Harry Truman, if you want a friend, buy a dog. On the other hand, there are people I work with. Chris Murphy, progressive from Connecticut, he and I collaborated on the largest reform of mental health in the last 30 years, as that has been described by other people. Mental Health Act of 2016. Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island have collaborated on electronic medical records. And I can go down a list. It's really the high profile taking on Obamacare, judicial appointees, that it becomes polarized. On other issues, there's actually a lot more cooperation than people recognize.
Well, then talk to me about the Dreamers, because this seems to me, Senator, to be the easiest thing in the world. The four pillars: regularize the 700,000 to a million Dreamers. And by that I mean they're not citizens, but they're here, and they're not going to be deported. We'll figure out citizenship later. But they don't get to bring in their family members. Also, we get the $25 billion. That's the number Kevin McCarthy told me yesterday, the House GOP majority leader, would be necessary to secure the border. And we address the lottery in a bill. That's just not hard. That's reasonable.
So the fact that you and I, and now Schumer, because Schumer has used the $25 billion number for the wall, have come to agreement, I think shows that there is potential for agreement. Whatever we can say, the left has moved on border security. Frankly, they've moved back to where they were a few years ago, but the resistance had moved them off. Now they're back. And I think with that, we can get a deal.
Well, given that, we need a bill to look at. The public hears things, and then they don't see anything. Is there are you counting on the gang of number twos, the whips, McCarthy and Steny Hoyer, Dick Durbin, and John Cornyn, to come up with a bill we can actually look at?
Absolutely. Obviously, McConnell is committed at some point to a debate in the near future. And whatever the first bill brought out will probably be the basis of discussion. I'm presuming the first bill that comes out will have the broadest support within the Republican conference, with some Democrats supporting. So we'll have that soon. John Cornyn's got the best approach. You know, he's from Texas. He's frontline. He understands the importance of the issues. So he says, listen, we need to address those four pillars that you just described, but not go so big that it's weighed down from the right or the left. I think that's a great approach.
Now, at the same time, we've got outlier groups. Now, you and Lindsey Graham have got a bill on Obamacare, which I think has enormous merit. You developed it, you sold it, but you didn't try and end-run it. Now, Lindsey went out and tried and end-run the entire caucus on immigration. Have you talked to him about that?
So I think he understands he can't end-run. He's just trying to get movement. And sometimes you're bottom, how do they say, bottom dead center. And you just need something to get the tick-tock moving once more. So in fairness to Lindsey, I think he just felt like we were just stuck. And now, frankly, everybody's in a little bit of movement.
Okay, now, in that movement, if we're an open field moment, appropriations have not come through for the Department of Defense. I know you know this. I know this. Lindsey Graham knows this. They cannot run the Pentagon on continuing resolutions. Secretary Mattis said, no enemy abroad. I'm paraphrasing, but I used it on my Saturday show on MSNBC. No enemy abroad has done more damage to the United States Pentagon than our Congress. So
I think it's fair to say that Democrats will hold Department of Defense funding hostage until they feel like there's been serious movement on DACA. And once they feel like there's that serious movement, then I think they will allow it to go forward.
What do you think of that position?
It is a tough negotiating position, which I don't agree with holding our military hostage, but I suspect it has a potential to be effective.
All right, so let me close by asking you this. It is going to be effective. I am appalled by it, and I don't think anyone can vote for a Democrat because of that. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your optimism that by the end of this CR, we've got a comprehensive look at DACA plus defense?
I'm going to say by March the 5th, I think we will have a comprehensive look at defense, and I think we will do something on the four pillars of immigration.
I so appreciate your spending time with me this morning, Senator. Thank you so much. Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, an optimist. I wish I could share that